Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Ball Podcast. As always, co-host Sam, along with host Brendan. We have been MIA for a few weeks, coming off a little Christmas vacation. Did you have a good break?
Yeah, it was a great break. Got to watch a little hoops, a little football, and some sunshine, and enjoyed time with family. And good to be back, though. I know it's been a while, so we got a ton to talk about, but it's been fun, man. There's been a lot going on, so
yeah, I'm excited to get into it. We got college football playoff. We got some crazy college basketball going on now, and it's been some good couple of weeks.
Started off Mountain West.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been. I was thinking about this. I don't even know if there's been a more stereotypical Mountain West week than what we just saw. Going back to last Saturday, New Mexico kind of just dogs San Diego State in the pit. Held them to 48 points, I think, and huge win for them. Undefeated in league. Utah State, kind of the same idea. They do what they usually do. Go down big. They come all the way back against Boise State, win on that crazy voodoo magic. The ball just had to go in the bucket. It was insane. But then you fast forward a couple days, and both of those teams go on the road to silent gyms. San Jose knocks off New Mexico. Utah State goes to UNLV. UNLV, who had their worst week in forever, lost by over 25 points to Boise State and Colorado State. They knock off Utah State. I mean, this is just what happens in this league sometimes.
I will say for two of those, New Mexico always gets ready and prepared for the big games, and they always usually perform well in the big games. And then there's always that one game. I think it was last year, 2 years ago, Air Force.
Yeah, last year, I think.
San Jose this year, and then as far as Utah State, they had that loss coming, especially from last year when they got bailed out and somehow won down there after that phantom call against Great Osabor and allowed them to make a free throw to win it. But yeah,
also, and even if you go back before San Diego State game for New Mexico, they're down probably 34 minutes of the game in Laramie. Wyoming just ran out of gas, but this New Mexico team is interesting to me because when it's a big game, especially in the pit, you can guarantee they're going to be amped up. But if they can't, you can't lose these games, and this is why this league within a week has kind of changed from all right, maybe 4 or 5 bids to are we talking 3 now? I don't know.
Maybe.
That's what's just crazy is. I think Utah State and San Diego State look like they're in the field, but there's 3-4 teams right now that maybe in a couple of weeks we're looking at there's 3 teams that are trying to get one spot.
Yeah.
So, and it makes tonight's matchup with Boise State, New Mexico even that much more bigger. Is both teams are kind of right on that verge of trying to vouch for that 3rd spot. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it's been a crazy week.
Yeah. Like you said, tonight's a huge game. It's always hard to win in the pit. I believe I looked this morning. New Mexico was 3.5-point favorites, which is favorable for Boise State.
Yeah, I think they were 4-point favorites against San Diego State. So a lot of respect for Boise State. And I think they've actually found a little groove. Couldn't finish it out in Logan. That's such a good environment, man. We were watching that. It just looked like, everything's against you in that building. And sometimes they just make shots that are like, what the hell? I mean, they just made some ones that were, and they're a really good team too. So I'm not trying to say anything bad against them, but they just make those shots in that building sometimes where the ball just bounces a couple times and it goes the right way, and then you see them against UNLV and it doesn't go their way. That's kind of just how they've played all year, though.
Yeah. It is cool to see. I mean, as much as there are rivals, I guess you could say, but it's cool to see their student section getting some national recognition because we've seen it for the last 4 years, and now people are finally realizing how cool of an environment that place can get.
Even I saw a guy on Twitter who was a Duke reporter was like, hey, Cameron Indoor is great, but like we need to start taking little notes from these guys. I'm like, see, like this thing is crazy, and you look in that building and half the building's just students. I don't even know if class was in yet. Like it's just crazy how many people they fit in, and it's not like a giant arena by any means, but they're right on top of you and loud, and they do their homework. That's for sure. They got the sheet of all the dirt on people or whatever they want. But it's a great environment, and they win games like that sometimes in that building. That's just how it goes, especially in a lot of different places. When you have that environment, sometimes it just caves in and they make a shot or two that wins the game, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, it's going to be a intense end to the season, I think. Like you said, possibly 3 teams fighting for one spot, and then we'll see what happens in the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah, I mean, even last year it was kind of like, all right, we kind of know the teams, and then New Mexico goes on their run and steals one. So that's probably what I would not be surprised if that's what happens. And maybe even a team like Colorado State's kind of just silently played pretty dang good too. So there's plenty of opportunities for teams to get wins too. So we're still early on in the conference play, but we're starting to see. You got to take care of business, though, against the bottom third of the league, though. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Also, another big kind of storyline, Cooper Flagg has been balling. He had 42 the other night.
Yeah.
I believe that's like most ACC record,
I
think.
For a freshman, I think,
For a freshman.
Yeah.
And, Duke is looking pretty good right now.
No, they look really good.
They beat Auburn, who's now ranked number 1, and I always thought they should be ranked number 1 over Tennessee, but they just kept staying at that number 2. They finally got the number 1. Who else do you think is looking good right now, playing well?
Iowa State.
Man,
they look. I was watching them against Kansas, and they shoot the seam off the ball sometimes, and they have a really good atmosphere there too. But I really like what they're doing. I think they always they just run their stuff really well, and they have a good roster this year. And I think they lost one game in Maui, and that's it this year. They've looked really well, and but even back to Duke, like the Cooper Flagg is young, and I talked about that like a couple podcasts ago, just about he had some freshman moments early in the year, but he's just, and the ACC isn't like a crazy league this year anyway, so they have a real opportunity to win like probably every ACC game this year, and if he's doing what he's doing, they have a good kind of group too that plays well together, and he's a freak though. He'll be the number 1 pick in the draft, and someone's gonna get pretty lucky because he's a freak show.
Yeah. Iowa State, I believe they're highest ranking in program history.
Yeah.
I will say I was wrong about one team that played last night and lost. Gonzaga. After that first win they had against Baylor, after watching that, I'm like, oh wow, this is a top 3 team in the country. But they've kind of stepped off a little bit.
Defensively, they weren't very good. It was a weird game. I think it's kind of weird to think about it. When I was watching that game, it's like Oregon State's not. I mean, they had their run a couple of years ago to the Elite Eight, but that program's been dead. Like, and you could tell that win for them last night was kind of like a recharge in their program. They're a good team. They have a really good roster actually, and they kind of had been, guys leave in the portal last year, but man, they got some guys that could really score, and Gonzaga just didn't really have a whole lot of answers, and when they did, I thought when Ike made the shot to send it to overtime, I was like, all right, this is probably where Gonzaga kind of finishes the game. But Oregon State came right out, got a couple buckets, a couple stops, and kind of just dominated the overtime in that way. And so many of the plays that Oregon State made were like diving on the floor. They went up by 4, and stole the inbounds pass and overtime. Like, those are just the plays that win the game. And that was a fun game. And I don't think they had sold out their arena in like 6 or 7 years, and it was packed and it was loud. That'll be a fun matchup going forward. We'll see that, every year. So I think that what it's kind of come to is you're realizing that this new Pac-12 is a really, really built basketball league, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be great environments, great games. I mean, as we saw last night. Also, I want to give a shout out to another game, another WCC game. One of the best games I saw all year was the Pacific Tigers knocking off the Washington State Cougars. I believe Pacific was on like a 20-game losing streak on conference, the road games.
I mean, it's unexplainable because I think Pacific just went and lost to Portland, who had last night, who they haven't won a WC. Like they kind of just went up there and just outplayed them. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know how this is just basketball at some point.
I forgot his name, but they were one of their best players. Pacific, he had 40. He dropped 40.
Yeah. Lamar Washington.
Yeah, Lamar Washington. Yeah. And they kept hanging with them. I believe Washington State missed one of 2 free throws. Pacific gets the ball, they inbound it at their end of the court, and just steps up, makes a huge shot. And the thing about it was the clock didn't even start, so they couldn't celebrate like they could have.
Yeah.
They could have ran out on the court,
been a buzzer.
but the clock never even started. So they went back and reviewed it and called it game.
No, what a good win. That was it was a fun, surprising, just kind of random night, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, what the this happened in Pullman. So we'll see, but I don't. I'm not expecting Pacific to be like to win a whole lot of more games, but I mean, shoot, that's the biggest win they've had. I mean, they hadn't won a conference game in like 20-some games, and they just go up and beat one of the contenders for the league. So that's pretty crazy.
That was a great game, but
shout out
the Tigers.
Yeah, that was fun to watch for sure. Yeah. Here's another team that I kind of was off the top of my head, and a lot of people are talking about that. Going into this season was kind of like the number 1 mid-major, Dayton. They're struggling. They're really I think they're like 1-3 in league. They were picked to be high in the A10 and like just have struggled all year, and they were kind of one of those teams that were picked to go to the NCAA tournament and maybe do something. So that's kind of one of the surprising ones. And then another team that's was really high up in the rankings and now is just plummeted as UCLA. And Mick Cronin kind of had the weird comments about his team. Yeah. I don't agree with it. I think it's a dumb thing to say. He knows his team better than anyone else, but I don't know if calling your team soft saying that kind of comes back to you as a coach. I think you can't just come out to the media and say your team is soft and they don't want to work hard. Well, what does that say about you? So who knows about that? But they've struggled in Big Ten play, and he made comments like, "Oh, the Big Ten's more physical, so we just aren't physical." Well, what have you never watched the Big Ten before? Like, you should know that 2 years ago when you were going into the league. So, interesting comments on that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I mean, coaches can be mad at their players all they want, but I don't know if saying that to the media is the best decision because, number one, it makes you look bad, but also as a player, like my coach, like you lose trust in your coach.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a conversation to be had, maybe behind closed doors.
Oh yeah. That's a coach to team moment, not a
exactly
coach to media.
And Arizona's actually, they struggled early on in the year, and then they've shot up. I think they've won like 6 or 7 straight in Big 12 play. So
they beat Baylor, I think.
Yeah, they're going to be right in there, which we kind of knew they weren't going to struggle all year, but you kind of wondered going into Big 12 play if they were going to be capable of winning a lot of games, and they've kind of rattled off, I think, six games in a row now. So they're a team to be reckoned with, which we kind of knew, but we're just waiting for them to kind of assert themselves in that league, and so that'll be something to monitor, I think, as well.
And then the SEC just continues to be a
Yeah, they're
bloodbath.
just so good, man.
I wonder how many teams they'll get in.
Yeah, it might be one of those like record type
Yeah.
years because you kind of just go down the list. It's like, okay, well, I mean, these teams are going to lose, but if the entire SEC is a quad one.
Yeah, it's like a paradox.
Yeah, it's like if you go into that league and you're like a Mississippi State or Texas A&M, like you probably were picked pretty low, but like if you just beat a couple teams in that league, you're never gonna have a bad loss.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be one of those years, I think, where you look back and you're like, well, a lot of these good teams have lost 6 or 7 conference games, but it's to Auburn, Florida, Tennessee. Like these are the top 10 teams in the country. 3 of the top 10 teams. So that's going to be Selection Sunday is going to be a SEC. Just keep rattling them off.
And I will completely see this now that the committee is going to favor a SEC team over a team that's on the bubble from maybe like the not Midwest, Mountain West.
Oh, yeah.
Mountain West.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that that's going to it's just the losses that are glaring, like New Mexico losing at San Jose. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily like losing to a Division II school, but it's also that's just going to be a blinking alarm for, I think, the selection committee. And so those are tough. And there's not as many, like last year there was 7 teams that probably could have gotten into the tournament in the Mountain West. And, losing to one of those teams doesn't necessarily hurt you, but there's not as many games like that. So you can't really afford to just drop a couple to the, lower 4 teams in the league or whatever. So, but shout out Tim Miles, man, dude. We were texting. I was like, I think he just has fun, like beating teams that are way better, way more talented. But he just is like, well, I got enough guys to put them in the right spots, and we might win, and it might be fun.
I mean, they have some talented.
No,
dudes.
they do. Yeah,
they have good players.
He gets a couple guys every year that are good enough to be like, a core like 3-4 guys where it's like, all right, we'll just roll this out, and here's the game plan. And if they execute it, they're good enough to win those games.
Yeah.
And no one wants to go in there and play because it's
there's like 20 people in there.
It's the most difficult thing on a Saturday. You're playing, New Mexico's playing in the pit in a sold out arena, 15,000 people, and you go to San Jose and you probably play in front of like 800. And it's just
maybe.
I mean, it's just silent.
Yeah.
And if you don't bring it, they're gonna bring it. Mm-hmm. They're used to playing in that.
Yeah.
They're just playing hoop.
Yeah.
It's such a weird dynamic. And someone said that on, I think even our mid-major madness guy was like, is San Jose a sneaky, like one of the toughest places to play in the league? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's actually true though.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to going to the toughest environments in the league, and then next 3 days later you're playing in this a rec gym basically.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's crazy. So
I mean, some of those games you can literally count how many people there by yourself.
Yeah. You're just, if you don't bring it, they will. They're always going to. But the good teams will go in there and just like take care of business basically. But I mean, if you have an off night, it's gonna be that's a rough flight home after that one.
Yeah. So it's January 17th today.
Yeah.
So we're about 2 months from conference tournament play.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember when Selection Sunday is, but we're about 2 months from that, and we're coming up fast. It's gonna be exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's there's so many leagues that have a lot of teams, and then there's a lot of leagues like even the West Coast Conference, like, I don't know, we're probably put Oregon State in that conversation now. They have a couple losses, but that's such a giant win for them to beat Gonzaga. And then Gonzaga still has to go to Pullman and play. That's
in St. Mary's.
In St. Mary's, like, you add in a couple of those teams. Like, some of those teams are probably good enough but won't make it. We talked about the Mountain West. It's going to be interesting going down the stretch. And but the big leagues have kind of teams that in like the Big Ten, like Michigan State looks really good. Purdue looks really good. Oregon's kind of one of those good teams, but they win a lot of those games like Utah State. I think they're one of the luckier teams in the country. So we'll see how they play. They play on Saturday against Purdue, which will be good. And, different styles of the game and around the country. But, some of these smaller leagues are kind of a little bit closer and a little bit more top heavy than last year, I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree. Should we get into the little college football playoff?
Yeah, let's do it,
from
man.
These past few weeks.
My wish did not come true, even though it was close.
Yeah.
I guess in the first round, home teams looked good. I think, I think they got it right. I like college football. College sports is always about the advantage of a home team. And, to say that those teams should play on a neutral side, I think is crazy. I think the home team should have an advantage. It's a part of the sport. It's always been a part of the sport. I think taking that away defeats the purpose. So it's tough to play on the road. That's just what it is. And so, whether you think those teams didn't belong or not, whether you think SMU didn't belong, whether you think Clemson didn't belong, whatever, or not Clemson because they won, but Indiana didn't belong. I still think those games showed, what it is, what the playoffs should do. And then, in the next round, I think this is where it'll be the big talking point about the bye. None of the bye teams really performed that well, just how it goes. So I like the format. I think I like the home field thing. The format needs to change, but when it does, I think this is going to be a fun playoff to go forward.
Yeah, I agree. Are you buying into the whole bye thing where the teams have a disadvantage for taking a week off, or you think it was just a coincidence?
I don't buy it. I think I don't know. I don't really buy a rust thing. I genuinely think Ohio State showed that they were better than Oregon. I think Notre Dame showed that they were a better team. I don't really buy the rust. I think you're playing in a giant bowl game. It's a game. Maybe there's a I thought maybe in the Oregon game, if Oregon's going to show some rust, it would be the first couple possessions. They just never got anything going, so it never really mattered. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really buy that, but also when you look at the actual games, I mean, Boise State wasn't favored, Arizona State wasn't favored, Georgia didn't have their quarterback, so the really only one was that you can make a case for that is the Oregon game. But
like you said, I genuinely think I thought Oregon Ohio State was probably the most toss up, where it go, where I would think both those teams are about at the same level, but the rest of the games I thought, which is a fault of the playoff format, I thought the teams that got it by weren't better.
Yeah.
Which is just how that kind of worked out, but I don't know. I think we'll see it change and we'll see it get better. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think a rust thing is a factor, but also, it should change to where you don't have to wait a month to play.
Yeah, I agree. When the Oregon-Ohio State game was going on, I remember I was laughing so hard. You sent me that picture with you were wearing your Oregon shirt and you had the clown clown emoji on your face. Or clown filter.
I was not good. I was down in Florida and I'm sitting at this bar and watching the game, and there's couple guys sitting across and they're all wearing red. I'm like, oh Lord, this is gonna be a long night for me. A couple Ohio State Buckeyes. So I will say, man, they could have, with Ohio State, after that Michigan game, they could have packed it in, and they could have said, yeah, we this is it, good season, but we can't do anything now. But they made the playoffs still, and they have all that talent. And they they got it all together. Like, that was pretty impressive. To see what they've done, and they're just a complete buzzsaw. I think Notre Dame's really freaking good, though. Yeah. I think that'll be a really good game. But man, they just have. You're just watching it, and you're like, my God, this is the team that we should have seen all year long, and they probably wouldn't have lost a game. Like, I don't know, they just kind of decided, hey, we're just going to open it up and just throw it to their 4 receivers that are going to play in the NFL, and it was pretty easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing. Remember a few weeks ago, we said that Ohio State fans would rather beat Michigan than the national championship, but
I think that's
we'll see
now that they're here.
Yeah,
and I think that's I don't think that's the right take for them now. Yeah. I think you'd much rather win the national championship. Yeah. I think it was a little overreaction, a little emotional reaction to losing to Michigan. But
because a few games ago, they thought their world was ending, and people were just lighting buildings on fire and destroying cars because their season was over. They lost to Michigan. And
like, oh my God, let's relax. Like, this is the most talented roster in the country. I think they'll be all right. And you saw it in 3 games in a row now. Yeah. And that's something that they hadn't been able to do all year, is string together like really, really good football, and 3 games in a row. And we can get into a prediction type stuff, but they have so much talent, man. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Boise State game, I was able to go down there.
Yeah.
To Phoenix, and it was a great experience. It was like, I think I told you this was probably 75% Boise State fans, which was awesome to see. But yeah, they just kind of made a few mistakes, critical mistakes, and some big moments that kind of shot themselves in the foot.
You know what? I'll say this, and I'm going to shout out our boy Jacob about last Saturday podcast, because he made a really good point about this when I was listening to his idea. If you do go back and watch the 2007 Fiesta Bowl, it is so gimmicky. Like, the trick plays, you beat them by being like overly like smart gimmicky type stuff. I was actually really impressed with Boise State for just being like, no, we're just gonna line up and play. And it wasn't like I never thought that Penn State completely dominated in that way. Like I think that puts a little more faith into like Boise State as a program, to where you can go into that game and be like, no, we have our game plan. It doesn't need to be anything tricky. And we'll see what happens. We got a best running back in the country, and you were kind of in the game for a lot of the game. In the fourth quarter, they extended the lead, but it never felt like we need something crazy to like happen, or we need like a kick return, trick play to win this game. It felt like you can go into the game, play your game, and have a chance to win, rather than we need to kind of manipulate this game into being something weird that it's not. So I think that's something to look into the future about Boise State about.
Yeah, and it wasn't a blowout by any means. Like, if you just looked at the score, it's different than what actually happened in the game. So I mean, they competed, and they were right there the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I thought it was competitive, and you didn't need anything weird to happen to be competitive. I thought you were just a competitive team, and Penn State's just the better team. Yeah. But it wasn't like, it never felt like to me that you needed something weird to happen. Obviously, in those games, you need the ball to bounce your way. You lost a fumble, and that kind of thing. But I never felt like, oh, we don't have the guys to win this game. It never felt like that to me. Maybe for other people it did, but to me, I was just like, you made some mistakes, and that was what cost you. And that's what's going to happen in football, And
it just gets me excited for next year when they go down to South Bend and play either the runner-up or the national champion next year.
That'll be fun. We've been talking about maybe trying to get over that. I think that would be cool, but that game has kind of turned into like, wow, we're gonna go over there and play. It's gonna be crazy.
I know.
But I mean, that's for next year to worry about, but that'll be fun though.
Yeah, indeed.
I guess Texas Arizona State was.
Oh, that was.
That was one of the best games of the year. And I was on. I was watching it, and I'm like, I think Arizona State was down 24-8, and they had like a 4th and 13. I'm like, here's the ball game. It's probably I was gonna turn it off after this one. Halfback pass, Cam Scadaboo, all the way down the field. Touchdown. That dude's an animal. They battled all the way back, and the overtime just didn't go their way, but that was a fun one to watch too.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona State had them on the ropes from 4th down, and Ewers just throws that perfect ball and they score. And after that, you're like, oh, it was actually funny. I was getting ready for the Oregon-Ohio State game. I was going to Buffalo Wild Wings, picking up some food to bring back, and I was watching on my phone, and then I walked in there, and the game was going on, and there were some Arizona State fans.
Oh,
in there.
Really?
And so right when I walked in was when they threw the tie the game or the tie game. And I walk out, and the guy, Arizona State fans, just out there sitting on the curb, just staring onto the ground. He just could not take it.
No, that was a lot of fun, though. I thought, very competitive game. I thought most of these games are, have been great. Besides the Rose Bowl, which blew, but man, that was a lot of fun to watch. And I really thought Arizona State they had so much momentum, and I thought that was a game that they might be able to sneak out. But yeah, that was one of those that looked like it was just dead. Like they had 8 points in the 4th quarter. They had to go. They went running back pass, and then immediate interception on the other end. Come all the way down the score. Like it was a perfectly just how you drew it up. If you're an Arizona State fan, that was crazy. Yeah. Fun to watch though. A lot of fun. Yeah, but sure. Well, I guess national championship. Yeah. What do we think?
Who I want to win? I want Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Who I think will win? Ohio State.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat.
I'm going to go Ohio State 34-24.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's favored by 10, I think almost, or something like they're so freaking good, man. I'm in the same boat as you. I think they just have so much talent. It's like, how do you even, especially when they're playing so well right now, I don't even know how you match up. Like Texas did a pretty good job taking away Jeremiah Smith. He only had a catch, I think. But they have so many other guys that they can go to, and they have tight ends that are good. 3 other receivers that are super talented. Will Howard's nothing crazy, but if you just give him time to just make it to a playmaker, they're just gonna run you all over. And Chip Kelly's been kind of a madman this playoff. He's just just scheming everything up. They pretty much just out schemed Oregon in that Rose Bowl. Everything was just wide open, and you had to make one guy miss. And then in Texas, against the Texas game, Texas just kind of was like, all right, we're not going to let you do that. But they, kind of just ran up and down the field on the ground, and then, had the big play at the end where Texas was going into tie, and the fumble recovery for a touchdown just kind of put the cherry on top for him. But I think it'll be competitive. I do think I don't think any of these teams. I don't think Ohio State's by any means going to blow them out. I think Notre Dame's got a really good defense too, so I think it'll be a good clash. I think Ohio State wins probably by around 10-ish as well.
And who would have thought Notre Dame would be in the national championship after losing to NIU?
Well, that's also the thing about the playoff is I think you got the good thing about it is both these teams wouldn't have been in the 4-team playoff. Mm-hmm. So at least that's what's to me has come about, has been I think you had a playoff that decided who earned to be there, and you gave the teams a chance to win. Both these teams had to win an extra game in the first round. So I like it because you gave the opportunity to teams to showcase a chance to play for the national championship, and they took advantage of it. So I think that's the good part about this playoff too.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you got anything else?
I don't think I got anything else. I got something. Dickie V's back.
Dickie V, he's back.
Big time for college hoops.
Let's go.
He's back on I think the January 25th. A little Duke and Wake Forest action, so that'll be good.
Diaper Daddy, baby.
You gotta have Dickie V, man.
Yeah.
And I guess speaking of that, the last thing, because I think we had talked about this, but they announced that they're coming back with the next football game.
Oh,
we got to get a basketball game.
Oh,
man.
for sure, 100%.
I know. It would be so awesome. I know, the basketball game, they shut it down even before because it wasn't doing well, but that would be a lot of fun. We got to have a basketball.
It would be so awesome because, you don't have to recruit 50 guys or whatever. You only have to recruit a few guys so you can spend more time on each person, and it's just easier. And then also just being able to take a Fordham or something and take them to the NCAA tournament.
That was the most fun about those games, that they had all the teams.
Yeah.
So you could go wherever you wanted to with it. Maybe. I don't know. I've seen some rumors about it, but it's probably not anything crazy. But I think it would do pretty well.
Yeah.
I would assume maybe at the start. I don't know about how it projects, but it would be a fun game.
It probably won't be for a while just because there's 363 teams, and if you want to spend a lot of time doing that, it's going to take a while for every single team.
No doubt. But
hopefully one day I'll be playing it.
I played that one. I played what was that, 2010 game forever.
Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I played that forever.
The gameplay was so bad.
Oh, it was terrible. But you had to play it.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? There's no other game. So maybe one day, maybe that'll be my next year's Christmas wish.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, that's all I got, though,
Sweet.
man. It'll be a fun weekend of hoops. So we got some good games on Saturday, too. I mentioned Purdue and Oregon, and then Alabama and North Carolina play, which will be a good game, too. So good hoops to watch.
Big one tonight, Boise State.
Yeah, big time game.
Be over by the time this comes out.
The Pit, man. It's always a fun one down there. I think it'll be crazy. I'm sure everyone's pissed off, and they're going to be coming in with some juice, but I think Boise State's playing the best basketball they've been playing.
Yeah.
So it'll be a good game tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, sweet. Thanks for watching. Make sure subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and thanks for watching. Come back next week. We'll be back whenever. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks,
see
guys.
ya.